I gazed at the large doors before me as they suddenly opened to reveal the hidden steps beyond. I looked up and saw the path way to my future. Scared, yet excited, I climbed the steps, knowing that my life would never be the same again. I was no longer a kid. I was a kindergartner. I was finally a big boy who was old enough to ride the bus all by myself. With several other kids, and a bus driver, of course. But there were no parents, and that meant there were no rules.
Quiet down back there.
Oops, sorry, Mr. Bus Driver. The school bus was a brave new world for me. Sure, I had been on many buses before, but never without my parents to supervise me. Usually, on the bus, I would be with my mom or dad, who would keep me in check, making sure I stayed out of trouble. They would constantly get on my case and say things like,
"Stop talking to strangers. Stop pressing the disabled button. Get out of that lady's handbag.
And of course,
Give the bus driver back his keys."
They usually managed to keep me out of trouble. Although, there was that one time my mom told me about. Apparently, I had gotten loose on the bus and commandeered the driver's seat and then tried to make my way across the state border. Vroom vroom! Of course, the bus was not actually moving, and I was merely playing with the steering wheel. But by the way my mom tells it, you would think I was Keanu Reeves in the blockbuster movie Speed. But now, with no parents in sight, things were different. While I was excited from my first day of school, I was also a little scared. I was only an innocent little rubber, and here was this big giant vehicle that was taking me away from my home, away from my parents. Maybe they were kidnapping me? Maybe they would never take me back. Then again, all the other kids were on the bus too, so it seemed relatively unlikely that anything sinister was going on. After all, it's not like parents would ever leave their kids with an untrustworthy authority figure. Still, the older kids in the neighborhood did little to alleviate my fears. They told me all sorts of crazy bus-related tales, like how the real bus driver went missing 10 years ago, and the current driver was an imposter who likes to eat children. Or how if you miss your stop, the bus driver could legally adopt you, take you away, and make you into another bus driver clone. Or worse yet, that the school bus was used for taking innocent children to these large buildings where adults would force them into unpaid labor and make them perform dozens of boring writing exercises. And where kids like me are used to erase any mistakes they made on their copybooks. Luckily, it turned out that that was only true for the older boys. I mainly spent my time at school drawing silly pictures with crayons. The school bus is where I first learned all about rules and social dynamics, like how only the cool kids sit at the back of the bus. I say the cool kids, it was usually just the bigger, meaner kids. And then, the less cool kids would be made to sit near the front of the bus. That is also where the teacher would sit whenever we would go on school trips. Although, that never really made any sense to me. Surely the teacher should sit at the back of the bus so they could keep an eye on all the kids and see exactly what was happening back there.
What the hell is going on back there?
Nothing.
Okay then.
I stayed on the kids' school bus for a few years, and then, around 13 years ago, I upgraded to the high school bus. And by then, I was big enough and cool enough to sit at the back of the bus. Of course, by that time, the really cool kids had all gotten their own cars and would generally drive themselves to school. But hey, at least it meant that I, finally, was the king of the school bus, with no one to answer to but myself.
Sit down back there.
Oops, sorry, Mr. Bus Driver. Unfortunately, it was not all plain sailing for me in high school bus either. There was that one time, on the first day of the new semester, I accidentally got on the wrong bus. And I ended up in some seedy-looking place on the wrong side of town.
Last stop, end of the line.
Ow! But wait, this isn't my stop. Come back! Can you teach me math?
You're a long way from home, little boy.
Nowadays, I tend to use the bus a lot less frequently since I can work from home and am able to drive. Can you believe I've only had 6 lessons? But I still have to use the bus now and again on certain occasions. Surprisingly, it is even more dangerous now since bus drivers don't tend to look out for adult passengers as much as they do for children passengers. No!
Oh, sorry, buddy. I didn't see you there.
Also, the seating arrangement is now a free-for-all, so you never know what kind of nutjob or lunatic you will end up sitting beside. I'm on to you. But there are still those who demand you give up your seat to them just because. But you don't need the seat. You look pretty fit.
I'm an old man, damn it, I need that seat.
Ugh, fine. When you think about it, it's fascinating how people behave in a confined space such as a bus. Most people will instinctively know about the unwritten rules or learn them naturally over time. Rules such as don't sit beside someone if there are plenty of other empty seats. Then again, there are always outliers. I've learned that when taking a bus, there is usually at least one crazy person. And if you don't see one, that means the crazy person is you. The crazy people can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, like the people who play loud music without headphones through their loudspeaker, or the people who will watch movies at full volume, or the absolute worst, the people who play noisy mobile games with the sound turned up to full blast. Has nobody heard of freaking headphones?
Ugh, why is there always at least one crazy guy on the bus? I know, right?
Then there are the chatterboxes, people who love nothing more than to talk to everyone on the bus about absolutely nothing of any importance.
Well, hello there, young man. How are you doing today? Riding this bus, I see, huh?
Yep, I sure am.
That's nice.
I like to put my headphones on so I can listen to some fun podcasts and avoid getting into any mindless chatter.
Let me regale you with some mundane story of my youth that go absolutely nowhere. See, one day I was...
Oh, sorry there. I can't hear you. I have headphones in.
Say no more. I hear you loud and clear, young man. No problem. The year was 1873, and the Egyptians had stolen my idea for a three-dimensional triangle. A pyramid, they called it. Personally, I preferred the original term, which was trilateral prismoid.
It is vital to develop a set of skills if you want your bus journey to be enjoyable, especially when it comes to the longer journeys. One of my favorite tricks is to sit on the inside seat and put my backpack on the outside seat next to me. Then, if anyone else gets on the bus, I immediately put on my headphones and pretend to be asleep. This way, people will usually pass by without bothering you or sitting next to you. It really does work. Well, most of the time. I always envy the sleepers. These are people who can actually go to sleep on a bus with no problem at all. I do not know how they do it, but they can sleep through almost anything and in almost any position. But their favorite position has to be reclined far back against the person behind them and snoring so loudly that you could wake the dead. Yep, there is never a dull moment when you are on the bus. Even though I don't use them as much as I used to, I do still appreciate the bus. And of course, the life lessons and interesting stories I have gained from using them through the years. Bottom line, the bus is a lifelong companion who will always be there for you when you need it most. It just might be a little late. God damn it! Fine, I'll just take an Uber, stupid bus.